Hello, this is Asajj Ventress. If I were you, I'd listen to Star Wars Reaction, or else you might get a little visit from moi.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
In 1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello, everybody. This is David Motters. Usually you hear Aaron start off the podcast, but Aaron has some other stuff that he had to do tonight. But we did have a chat with scheduled for tonight, and we are doing it. And we are doing it with our good friend from across the pond, Daz Davies. Daz, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be back.
Oh man, I was looking forward to this, and we text quite a bit on a thread, and I just don't get to talk to you enough live like this. So I was really looking forward to it, and I appreciate you, Aaron and I both, you jumping on. We know it's late at night there, and you're becoming a pro at this podcasting thing. Do you think? I mean, you've been on a number of podcasts, so
Oh, yeah.
know.
I'll be honest. I don't feel like a pro. I just need to sort of just like stumble my way through, and I think everybody else sort of helps me out really, and we get there eventually.
That's right. That's right. Well, like I said earlier, this is a one of our staples on Star Wars reactions. Is it's called a chat with, and I was talking to Aaron. I was just talking to Daz before we jumped on here that we've done a lot of these, but I thought Aaron and I thought for sure, yeah, we did one of these with Daz, and we hadn't, and so like I said, we're gonna jump into this, and I'm so looking forward to learning more about your fandom, because it's been a joy to get to know you and your fandom. I've kind of gotten to know it anyways, but now our listeners will be able to get a little bit of a better feel. So I'm going to start off with the questions, and the first one is just how and when did your fandom start?
Dave, before we go into that, I was just going to say,
Sure.
going, knowing that we're going to be doing this tonight, I did actually go through the pod feed and have a quick listen to some of the other ones that you've done. I've heard them all over the years, but I thought, oh, it'd be interesting to hear. And these episodes are so evergreen. I hopped into Dunze, Tom Gross, Jay Krabs. I was just like, and they're proper what I call evergreen episodes where you can sort of just hop in and sort of get sort of somebody's story, which is like always so much fun. It's going to be interesting answering some of these questions because you and me are like really good buddies, so you know me really well. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see if any of my answers are surprising to you, or if you're like, yeah, it all checks out at the end. So yeah. My
That's
fandom.
yeah.
Well, I think really this answer has two parts to it, because I have the part of my fandom in my lifetime where I would call myself like a regular Star Wars fan, and I have a part of my life where I feel like an extreme obsessed fan, and I think they're two very different times for me in Star Wars. So early on in life, Star Wars was always there. Growing up in the 80s, I think that the A New Hope and Empire had come out before I was born. So, but I was extremely young when Return of the Jedi came out. So all of my early experiences of watching Star Wars anyway were on VHS, or well, even VHS that was recording from the TV. Over Christmas over here we'd have Star Wars on television. We'd record those, and that pile of VHS tapes that everybody had, that do not record over these. So it was. I was trying to think about specific moments early on of like, when did I first see a Star Wars, or when did I first, I don't know, play with an action figure Star Wars? And honestly, I can't remember. And I think that's quite nice, really. It's just something that's always been there, one of those sort of foundational things that's always been there in the background. I remember always sort of seeing the Star Wars movies when I was young. I had a bunch of Star Wars toys. Like, I don't even really remember when I got them. I was thinking it'd be nice to say, oh, I remember my third birthday or a certain Christmas or something that I had everything. But I still have a lot of the collection now. My mum and dad kept it nice and safe for me, and I actually brought it over to our house recently, and I just seem to accumulate them over time. And my mum and dad were doing the Lord's work, really, and they were topping up the collection, in those early days. And so I remember, like, I was really drawn in those early days to like the sort of cuter sort of characters. I remember some of my favorite action figures were like the Wicket and the various Ewoks that we had. I had the Ewok village, and Yoda was a big favorite. So that's quite interesting. But I suppose it reflects my age at that time. So yeah, Star Wars was just there. I'd say I was sort of a casual to just, like a very interested fan early on. And really, that was the case through most of my childhood. By the time the prequels came out, I was sort of in my late teens, and to an extent, I might have been too cool for school. And I don't really remember it being like a high priority on my list at that time. I saw all of the movies in the cinema and enjoyed them, but I wouldn't say that it sort of ratcheted up my fandom in any way. So yeah, that's my early casual, sensible level of fandom. But then then the Disney era took over, and I'd say probably around 2014, 2015, where things were really taking off with The Force Awakens. And if I had to credit like a single piece of media with like really capturing my imagination and creating me into the monster I am today, it would be those early Force Awakens teaser trailers, and the main trailer especially, which I think, in my opinion, is the best movie trailer I've ever seen. I think it's just it's perfect. I was in my early 30s at that time, which is an interesting time in life. You're you're well away at that point from your sort of childhood and those times where you feel like those carefree times, and you're sort of moving into serious life. And I do sort of recall a sense of like are things like sort of are things like fantasy sci-fi for me right now? Should I be thinking about other stuff? And then came Force Awakens, and I'm so glad it did, because it sort of hit me with that perfect reminder and the nostalgic feel of my childhood. And I think that's something I really gripped into, and I was like, no, like this is something that like is sort of inbuilt in me, like unbeknowing. I felt very strongly about the sort of trailer references to Han Solo, and you've got Luke speaking in one of them. You've got the sort of visions of R2, and then you've got this like exciting new period, and it just felt like the perfect jumping on time. I remember discovering it around that time my first podcast, which was Coffee with Kenobi. It was just a case of hitting Star Wars into the search box, and out pops Coffee with Kenobi, and a lot of our community, our personal friends, really, it was that one day where we clicked on Coffee Kenobi is the reason that a lot of us are friends today. So yeah, I think that between those early days and that the sort of the time around Force Awakens, that's where I would say my fandom started twice.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And you got me thinking about those trailers. I remember the one that came out November of 2014, and I remember in my head going, "Wait a minute. We not only have to wait another year to like November 2015, but then another month to December 2015." I was like, "Oh, I couldn't wait." And I agree with you. And I think back on Force Awakens just like you, and I love the characters. I love how they did it. Like you said with Han and Chewie, at the Celebration, people just lost their minds when Han and Chewie were back, in the Falcon and stuff like that. So I hear you. I get why it really sparked it up for you there. And that movie to this day is so fun. It's so good. All right, well we'll keep it going here. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Um, well, how about this one? What was it about Star Wars that appealed to you as a fan?
I think that the sort of level of fans that we are, it comes as like a package, really. There's not like I can't place my finger on one particular thing. I mean, just sort of visually and from an audio point of view, the special effects, the costumes, the John Williams music. Um, I think that maybe its root, especially in those like early movies, it might have been a lot to do with that sort of. It was a clear vision of good against evil, and I think that like growing up, that is a really satisfying story. Um, you throw in things like technology, the future, even just something as simple as when you're young as like the ability to fly. You see these ships, um, all of these things thrown together. I think that they probably draw us all in. Sort of that sort of later jumping on point where like I really sort of became part of the fandom. I think, like I said earlier, it was that sort of drawback to the nostalgia from my childhood, which I felt was important at a point where I was sort of, working out who I was going to be as an adult. That sort of like from a me point of view, like that really appealed to me. And going forward, I think that it was just such a fascinating time where we knew once again we knew nothing about the future of Star Wars when some of those trailers were coming out. It's in some ways they're controversies now, but like if you watch some of those early trailers and you say, well, who's going to be the Jedi character, you could definitely be forgiven for thinking that was going to be John Boyega. We see him with the lightsaber, not with Rey in those like early trailer times, and there's just something really exciting about not knowing what's coming. I'm sure that's like a topic that will like come up later in our discussion, really. It, what really gave me a good entry point back in, and something that appealed to me was it felt like a clean slate after Disney started, which as a fan who wasn't 100% invested, that was quite useful for me, and probably what made it such an effective jumping on point. Yeah, just all that intrigue. Yeah, I think that probably covers it.
Oh, wow, that's well said. Well said. Um, how about this one? What has been fandom's biggest impact on you?
Oh, I think this is one of the easiest things that I can answer, really, and it is my friends. It's just quite simply my friends and our community. Which going into like a fandom is not necessarily something you think is gonna come in the future for you. You're interested in, particularly in the media itself. You're interested in the stories. But if you immerse yourself in the Star Wars fandom, inevitably you'll find good people out there that you connect with, and some of my very best friends, as a result of being a fan of Star Wars. And it just, to somebody who maybe isn't in a fandom like this, it might sound ridiculous, and maybe it is, but it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
what are any of our friends apart from like connections of one kind or another? And I think that Star Wars is quite a pure connection to have. I think that if you like Star Wars and you like the messages that it conveys, then it potentially goes along with what kind of person you are, maybe. And yeah, like I'm forever thankful for Star Wars. At times, I forget that Star Wars is about Star Wars because it becomes so much about my friends. But which is such a nice place to be. I think that shows to the level that it's like been such a positive force in my life, really.
Yeah. Well, I think about like Dan on Coffee with Kenobi and Corey and Tom and what they built and how they wanted to build community. And then, Aaron had jumped on at an early time there and he was reporting for them from Star Wars weekends. And I, met Aaron that way and then got to meet Dan and Corey and all them and did celebration in 2017 and developed friendships. And then as time passed, getting, to know you and Mary and just a lot of the people within the Coffee with Kenobi community. But, a big part of it, you think about the toxicity that you and I hear about. And
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's there, but like I think about what you just said and all of our friendships. You want to talk about the opposite of toxicity. It's positive, it's fun. We have a good time, we joke, we can tease, we can love something, we can dislike it. And like you have stuff you like and don't like, Aaron does, myself, and all of our friends, they have things they like and don't like, and none of us are upset about it. And so
Mm.
it is literally the opposite of toxicity. But I'm with you, buddy. I'm so thankful for our friendship. I'm so thankful. Aaron and I, we know you, and it's just been just a blessing to us, to get to know you and your wonderful family. I'll tell you that. Well, here's another one. We'll go to the next one. Well, okay, yeah. Now this is what I'm curious because I think about all the cool Star Wars stuff you've done, and you post a lot of cool things. You've been to a lot of different countries, and even some of the stuff that's popping into my head where you've driven all around the UK to some of the Star Wars stuff. But what do you have a favorite Star Wars moment or experience?
Oh, this is really tough. As you say, I'm very fortunate to have so many sort of options for things that I might, come up with an answer for this. Really, whether it be I think my celebration next year will be my fourth celebration. I've been to the last three, and they've all been very different. One of them was a home celebration in London. One was my first celebration over in Anaheim. That was amazing. And one was in Japan, which was just a completely different experience. So they could easily be really valid answers, I'd say. The people I've met, um, whether it be at conventions and things like this, it could easily be meeting. Well, I don't want to give any spoilers for a potential answer later on, but Ray is a very important character to me, and I've been very fortunate to meet Daisy Ridley and her husband in London and speak with them. And so, again, that on any given day, that should probably be the answer. But what I'm going to say today, it's really because it's 1 year anniversary since this moment, so I think it's probably quite fitting to give this as like my sort of favorite experiences. A year ago in London Film and Comic Con, I met a person called Ming Chu. And not necessarily like a household Star Wars name for a lot of people, but Ming has had like various roles in Star Wars. She is commonly known as a stunt double for Ming Na Wen. As Fennec Shan, but she's also had an on-screen appearance as a character of Minas Velti in the Kenobi series, and it's the sort of Order 66 scene where a Jedi is sort of trying to rescue her Padawans, and she eventually gets taken down by some clone troopers. So she plays that role, and which is
Mm.
awesome. And she's also been the stunt coordinator for the Ahsoka series. So she's got like a really mixed CV for somebody that like is not necessarily a household Star Wars name. And to be honest, she wasn't somebody I knew particularly well when I met her, but I was down in London for the Film and Comic Con, and she was one of the guests, and I went to get an autograph from her, and I can't remember what we talked about when I got my autograph from her, but it was a nice conversation, and like as we were finishing up, there was a queue of people waiting behind us. she said, oh, if you'd like to carry on chatting, come back later. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I just sort of nervously, got away from the sort of autograph area, thinking, I don't know about that. That doesn't, surely not. And one of our good friends, Greg McLaughlin, was there, and I remember talking to him about it, and eventually I convinced myself that no, I will take the opportunity when it's a bit quieter just to go see her. I'm very much like a sort of just shoot your shot, if an opportunity comes, what's the worst that can happen? As shy and as nervous as I can be, I'm quite glad to say that when push comes to shove, I'll usually put myself into these positions for good or bad. And honestly, it can work out both ways. But amazingly, when I went back to her, she obviously remembered me from earlier, because she pulled out a chair behind her signing desk and said, oh, just come round. And she took my bag off me and set it aside. She had me sit with her, and I was sat with her for a while in between her greeting guests and signing autographs. She was talking with me full out, which it was a proper pinch me moment. And she was so kind with her time, and some of the experiences she was telling me about, things from a stunt coordinator role. She's been involved in the training of many of the stars of the Ahsoka series, and so she could recall stories of working with Hayden Christensen. And for example, she was saying, often in practice scenes with other actors, you'd have the stunt person come in for that person in that person's role, but she was saying Hayden's so good that he can literally sort of fulfill that role. Just amazing stuff like this, which just feels like that sort of real gold nuggets of information that we love as big fans. And she was just absolutely surprised. She just amazed me in how kind, and I almost felt like, does she think I'm somebody else? But no, she didn't. She was just being nice, and I think she could tell I was interested. And I think that she was like, well, why not? And I remember Greg walking past, and I was just giving him these looks as though to say, I know, I don't know what's happening. And I remember he was laughing because he knew me well enough that he would have known that I was in complete shock. But no, it was great. And I remember leaving the convention, I called past the table again, and I just to say bye, which I mean, who does that with with the guests? And she introduced me to some of her family, and I was completely, honestly, it was just a people connection moment, and I think that's why it's so dear to me. So I can't not give that as my favorite moment, because it was amazing.
I mean, I'd seen the pictures. I knew Greg took some pictures of you there behind the desk, the signing table with her. She looks so nice. For her to take that time and do that, it's always, like you said, I never quite know, when they will or not. I love what you said. You're like, well, earlier when she said, stop by later and we'll just chat more and have fun. And then you're like, oh, geez, do I really do that? And you did.
Yeah.
And she was so cool and so nice. I'm so glad you shared more of that, because I had known of it and that she took the time, but I didn't realize that she introduced you to some of her family, as well as kind of that part of with work with Hayden. I think I just recently I don't know, maybe at her Instagram site, and saw a picture of her on the set of, I think, Ahsoka with Hayden and Rosario. I think, if I'm remembering that picture correctly. But that's a great fan experience. That not good. That's great.
She's an incredible person, since meeting her, I've learned a bit more about her. Such an interesting person. At the age of, I think, 9 or 10, she moved into a sort of a temple setting to learn martial arts. And she was there for 10 years. And in that time, she was only allowed to see her family once a year. How fascinating is that? Just this sort of just melding with your craft. And she was learning wushu and all this martial arts techniques. Incredible, just amazing.
Wow. That's an experience, man. That's a great one. What a great story. So, well, let me, this one kind of comes back around to like when we talked about how and when did your fandom start. When you take a look at fandom overall, how have you seen fandom change throughout the years? We've seen it, right? We've seen some changes here, but what about from your perspective?
I think for fandom, really, you can sort of follow it along the line of just generally how social media and
Mm,
podcasting and sort of, let's say, YouTubing really has like become ingrained in society, and there's good things and bad things about that. Like we were
mm,
talking earlier about friends and community that like we've made through Star Wars, and I think that like if you keep an open mind and you just follow what you enjoy, there are opportunities to find like-minded people who you can enjoy yourself with, get excited about new things, and like I think that really we're still, history will show we're probably still in a transition phase of getting used to the sort of implications of social media and that becoming like well, it's really our main source of communication with people probably beyond our household. Sadly, so in some households it's probably still social media and text. But yeah, like I struggle at times with social media. It is a real sort of echo chamber where like one voice can become really loud, and that's
mm,
like where some of the negative points come really in the changes through the years. Like I would it might be, I think it was earlier in this year, it might be in the end of last year, I went through a little phase of collecting old issues of Star Wars Insider magazine.
yes, yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was, which was such a nice project. I sort of decided to try and sort of pick out like a section of early issues and just enjoy those for what they are. It's like a little time capsule, seeing as the magazine was coming to a close. And one of the things that stuck out to me was back in those days, one of the only ways of like sort of connecting with the community was to write a letter and send it to a mailing address somewhere.
Mhm.
And the time frames we're talking, probably weeks, maybe months before a letter hits a page, and then weeks and months before maybe responses for other fans have got it. But it's it's so pure, and it's very sweet really looking back at it now, given the sort of some of the atrocities of social media.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed looking back at that, and so yeah, and I guess in a way that's during my lifetime it's amazing to think that we've gone from a place where somebody would write in and maybe have the letter printed in a magazine to the point now where you can
mm,
become viral within the next 10 minutes, if a message is hits just right or is even just outrageous enough. um
right.
yeah, so I the fandom's changed for good and bad. I think that I think we all know social media is a big part of that.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I always enjoy your perspectives. A lot of people, like I said, if they're listening, when we text all the time, you always have some really, really good thoughts on things and a really good perspective. And I think, with the negativity part, that's another thing I think about with the friendships that we've made. We're not gonna contribute to that. We just don't. And, I do, I think, even like, Dan has talked about on Coffee with Kenobi, I think about the people who make these. Like I think about something like Daisy Ridley. You got to talk to her and her husband, which I think
Hmm.
is so beyond cool. And I love the picture of you there, I think at that theater and or
Hmm.
wherever that was. It was so cool. And these are human beings who are trying to do good work. And like I like what you said earlier, trying to do their craft. And people can get so negative so fast. Same thing with sports, right? Sport,
Yeah.
movies, anything. And I tell you, and our listeners know I'm a psychologist, and you and I have chatted about different things, and negativity is just there's so much of it that why contribute more? There's enough on the planet, But
It's so true.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think that the sort of the best advice you could give somebody really is just find your own people and don't worry about all the rest. Just let them do their thing. You do your thing. Life will be
yeah.
fine, and you'll enjoy yourself. It's fine.
Well, I think we just kind of let all them be miserable, right?
Uh, yeah, if that's what does it for them, then let them do it. But in the meantime, we're just gonna enjoy life and
that's right.
make the most of it.
That's right. That's right. Um, all right, let's see. What do we got here? All right, so much good stuff here. Okay, here's one. So the Star Wars saga has themes that run throughout these stories, and you kind of hinted. I can speak really a little bit earlier about good and evil being one of them, but there's themes of redemption, hope, etc. But what theme do you feel like has from the saga has had the biggest impact on you over the years?
Mm. I think when you're thinking about the biggest impact of a theme from Star Wars, eventually you do end up back at hope. I think because it's sort of that sort of
Right.
simple sort of common denominator. But for me, um, if I sort of look inward and try and think about what I'm getting from Star Wars as I watch it and enjoy it over the years, and like how and the points in my life where I've sort of recognized perhaps it's impacted decisions or my way of approaching things, and I would say the theme it's kind of a hard one to sort of describe really in words, but if I call it self-belief and like the ability of an individual to make a difference
Mm,
in a very sort of stumbly sentence. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that Star Wars reminds me that anyone can achieve great things and that you shouldn't necessarily assume that you can't really affect something or achieve something that's maybe not in your sort of usual wheelhouse. And the stars of like the main Skywalker saga, the main characters, Anakin, Luke, and like for me a really big deal, Rey. They all come from very humble beginnings, and at a point where they're completely unaware of their abilities. But what leads it, we could have a very short movie where any of these characters decide I can't do that. I'm not up to this. Like I've not done this before. All these sort of thoughts that we're perhaps confronted with when we've given like a new challenge or have something to overcome. But the movies would be over in minutes. But no, we have these characters who embark on a journey and well they save the galaxy in Star Wars, but
I
you
love
know
it. I love it.
just like just a sort of humble brag on their front, but they do they say yes, and they don't look back, and they it, they open the door to greatness, and I think that time after time that is something that I've reflected on because of the way we immerse ourselves in Star Wars. That, like you do think about certain moments, and whether it's remaining calm in a moment, it does you no harm to think about your favorite character and how they might achieve something. It might seem like something that you'd expect a child to do, but I think they're tools that we can use, just to sort of put yourself in the state of mind of somebody else and say, yeah, they did it, I could do it too. I think for me, that's a theme that's been sort of really valuable to me. And with all these characters, as like an add-on to that, a theme of calmness, like often at the moment where it matters most, our heroes, surrounded by chaos, find a peaceful, calm moment. And I think that's a real lesson for us, and a theme that like I take on board. I have like a terrible irrational fear of the dentist, and even going to the dentist, I sometimes have to tell myself, just like, just thinking of my favorite characters. How would they be? Would they be all crazy? No, they'd just be like, it's fine, it's gonna be fine, and sort of a silly thing, really, but also like what a tool to have in your locker, I would say.
That's right. That's right. No, I love how you really, talked about hope as well as, it really is, you look at where Ray starts, you look at where Luke starts, where Anakin, it's all humble beginnings. And that means more to me than I think to you and most fans, right? Versus like you're born like that old saying with a silver spoon in your mouth and everything's been
Mm.
handed to you. And oh, wow, it's, you didn't have to work at anything. And I think that's what you and I are looking for, right? Is, kind of, and there is something to say about the humbleness too, right? The humble beginnings. And that means a lot to people. That means a lot. All right. Um, all right. Well, hey, we got a final question before the speed round. And that is, and kind of, we've been hitting on it a bit here again through the previous questions, but, we've got, celebration coming up next year, 50th anniversary, right? 1977 to 2027. And we just got done with, an animated series, Maul Shadow Lord, as well as, the movie Mandalorian Grogu, right? I guess we got some visions coming up here as well. We've been chatting a little bit about that on our text thread and stuff. You got me motivated, and I did watch both episodes, and then I watched the trailer again, and I'm like, all right, I think I'm getting ready for this. But
Mhm.
just overall, what do you think? Here as we're in 2026, moving into 2027, and the 50th year of Star Wars. But how do you feel about the current direction of the saga?
Oh, well, Dave, I wish I could be more positive than I'm probably going to be for this
Mm,
answer.
mm,
Um, I think that at its root, I'd say I am concerned with the
mm,
state of things at the moment. And of course, this is, everybody probably has a different opinion of, well, they'll definitely have a different opinion of this, but I do worry that, like, there's not a clear direction for the saga right now.
mm,
I feel like it's a little bit scattergun.
mm,
I worry about decisions being made potentially on the back of noisy voices on social media. I'm thinking of things like the cancellation of The Acolyte, rightly or wrongly.
mm,
It looked like it had more legs, and it's a shame, for whatever reason, we can't say for sure that that
mm,
was cancelled when it was. Um, uh, the situation where we keep hearing about movies that are going to be happening and don't happen. Um,
mm,
I was really disappointed to hear about the Ben Solo movie
mm,
outcome. I think the fact that Adam Driver was involved in that, Adam Driver is a real talent. I think really underrated talent. Since being in Star Wars, like, you can tell he's very highly rated by some top directors out there, and the fact that he saw it as a project that he wanted to be involved in, because it's not an obvious project for him to want to come back to. I'll be honest, I would never have bet that Adam Driver would ever want to come back to Star Wars. I did, not that he disliked it, but I just felt like he'd moved on, and that was fine. But the fact that we heard that, like, that was in the offing, is he was that positive about it that he was willing for it to be put forward as a proposal, and for that to get pulled for seemingly the reason of just like a high level executive thinking that the character's dead. Well, Star Wars, if we're going to apply real life physics to Star Wars, we're in big trouble. You know. And so, yeah, like, close to my heart, Daisy Ridley and Ray. We
mm,
keep hearing things about we're gonna have Ray in a movie, perhaps we're gonna have Ray in a trilogy. Daisy started making a lot of noises in the last 12 months that, like, it sounded like something was very close. It's gone so quiet, and I just, it's very hard as fans for us to know what's happening. Um,
yeah,
thank goodness we've got Star Wars back in the theater. I think that's so important. The Mandalorian Grogu, I'm sort of torn about this. I enjoyed the Mandalorian Grogu as a movie in a bubble for what it was. I think that it's a great movie, but then when I think about it in its place in Star Wars and the situation that we find ourselves with the sort of franchise as a whole, we came out with very little impact on the saga as a whole from that movie, and I don't know that that's what people want really. I I really hope that we don't carry on this pattern of trying to go from TV to movies. I don't think that works. I think if starts on TV, keep it on TV. I think the issue of taking it to theatre is that you're straight away closing the sort of potential viewing base to the people who enjoy the series on television. If they see that there's a movie on about a character from a TV show they already decide not to watch, they're probably not going to go to the cinema to see a movie about it. I think that keep the movies are sort of sacred in the fact that I think that that needs to be a key main through line, and I think that like with a movie like Mandalorian Grogu, we sort of deviated from that, and I'm not sure what somebody coming out with that movie that's not a big fan thinks about the future of Star Wars. Yeah, who knows where that's going to go really, but I think that a lot is depending, and I think a lot of hope is being put on the Starfighter next year and Ryan Gosling. I think that quietly that what I'd call the more invested fans are looking towards that one as maybe being sort of something that will propel us forward into the next phase, and I really hope that's the case. And just to sort of close up this sort of question, and this goes back to something that I heard Dennis Keithley talking about on podcast Stardust a few months ago, and it was something I'd thought about but not heard anybody else talk about. So when he brought it up, I was like, "Yes, Dennis, exactly." And what he brought up was we've had these 3 sequel movies where we've got the likes of Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Adam Driver, even Oscar Isaac. Let's not leave it too long to bring those guys back into Star Wars. Otherwise, we're going to face a similar situation that we did with the original trilogy guys, where they're much aged up versions of themselves. And whilst that's great, and I think Danny said it's a missed opportunity. Like we've got these actors, they're pretty beloved characters at this point. The direction of the saga, I would love to see them pull back in. Let's get stuff in the theatre with them in. People know these characters. They're tried and trusted, and they're at an age where this it's such an open page, really, a blank page that can be written on them. I just hope we don't sort of let them slip and then we move on to the next lot, because all that will happen is I can see it in 15-20 years time we'll be sort of wheeling out Daisy Ridley and it just feels a bit like, come on guys, we've done this before, we've brought Hayden back and Ewan back. Perhaps let's take the opportunity to work with these actors while they're in inverted commas in their prime, and perhaps more in line with the stories that people would like to see, of just young, adventuring, exciting, fast, action paced movie. So that's a bit of a messy answer, really, but I think it's something I could probably talk about for hours.
I think you nailed. Yeah, you made me think about Carrie Fisher. I don't know when she said it. What's crazy is this December she'll be gone 10 years, right? Wow. December 2016, December 2026, and so I remember as they were making the sequels, and I think she would echo. I think Carrie Fisher would echo what you said. She said. I don't know if she said it to George or to someone. She goes, "Could we have done this 10 years earlier?" Not 2015, but and so I agree with her. I think Mark and Harrison would too. It's interesting. Just piggybacking off what you said is, I was thinking about Daisy Ridley, Oscar Isaac, but even I think you and I've heard kind of not grumblings but good things that Boyega has expressed some interest and after I think being a little frosted for a while. So I agree with you. I think this is the time to do it, and hopefully, like you said, that Starfighter next year will lead into hopefully more with these guys, because I think there's where you've got your movies, like you said, TV on TV. You got movies. Have these guys, and have it be an experience at the cinema, like you said. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree
yeah,
more.
yeah. Um, all right. Oh my gosh, man, this is good stuff with that. All right. So we're gonna do our speed round and just see, what Daz's answers are to this. All right. First one of our speed round. Favorite movie.
Favorite movie, The Force Awakens. The
I
reason I'm here right now.
I guessed it, but I didn't want to say it. All right. I think I know the next one too. I think. Favorite character.
Yeah, we could probably move on from this one already. It is Rey Skywalker, hand in hand. Just yeah,
Oh,
it's so important to
nice.
me.
Oh,
Not even in question.
yeah. All right. Empire or Rebellion?
Well, I'd say I'm a resistance guy, so I better say rebellion in that case.
Nice. Favorite moment from the movies or some of the TV shows? That's a lot of material, I know.
It's so much, isn't it?
Oh,
I mean, wow, you could just sort of pick one out of a hat, really. Um, the guys listening are gonna be getting sick about hearing about this, but it's a Ray moment, and it's not maybe not one of the more obvious ones. It's the early scenes of Ray scavenging on Jakku. I
mm,
might be the only person who has them as a favorite moment because
mm,
really not a lot happens, but I love those quiet early scenes where she's
mm.
abseiling in the Star Destroyer, where she's sliding down like the sand dune, on a old piece of scrap metal. Um, and she's living in that 8080. They're quiet moments, but I think that they rapidly tell you who the character is, and I could just exist in that space forever. I love it.
Oh my gosh. That is, I was thinking about that original trailer you talked about. I can just hear the music and just see her scaling down inside this. Oh my gosh. So
Iconic.
beautiful. So iconic. All right. Um, let's see. Okay, okay. Favorite soundtrack or song from Star Wars?
This is so hard, isn't it? And like
Oh,
listening to past episodes, like it's amazing what people come up with. Really, I think that with music, and maybe Ross Sullivan would be the best person to say this, but it often like reflects where you're at the time. Um, Themes wise, just quickly honorable mentions would be probably some of the obvious ones: Princess Leia's theme, Yoda's theme, Rey's theme, of course. The prequels, I love the putting Padme's ruminations with Anakin's betrayal as like a pairing, almost
mm,
like as one track. If you put them together and play them, oh, beautiful.
mm.
Favorite for today, I'm gonna say Niamos from Andor, mainly standing out to me because of it being a sort of in-universe tune. So I think it sort of maybe perhaps it's apart from the others, and like even now, like Andor's sort of firmly in the past, but it's still clinging on. Like it just, I think that it's still very present in all of our thoughts. And just thinking of that scene where Mon Mothma's at the wedding reception and
Yeah.
joining this like intricate dance, and the lovely symbology of her like sort of losing control and being swept
Mm.
away by everything that's happening around there. Oh, so I'll go with that one for my favorite today.
Nice. Well, and one of the things I was thinking about is the picture you sent for, I think there was like a metal stamp there or something. So if Andor was filmed here, I think you were at the real life Niamos,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
How far is that from your
It,
place?
it's probably about a couple of hours drive. It's up in
Okay.
Lancashire, up on the coast, and I, I I I had a quiet day where I was on my own, so I thought, like I could sit around and watch telly all day, or I could just go on an adventure, and I'm so glad I did. It was so interesting. Yeah, like to anybody listening, if they want to see it, just have a look on my Instagram. Put quite a few pictures on there, but I sort of wandering around this this little town and a little coastal resort, really, and I found so many like obvious location spots which show up quite prominently in Andor, and it was really enjoyable recreating the sort of camera angles and putting myself in Cassian's role.
Oh.
I think that's a trip I'll have to do again. It might have to become a bit of like a Star Wars pilgrimage for me.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. When I saw those pictures, I'm like, no way. I was like, that was so cool. And the pictures, and like I said, it seemed like they put like a marker there, which I thought was really cool. Andor
They
film.
did.
That's
It's
cool.
lovely, yeah.
Yeah,
Like a proper commemorative,
yeah.
like so it's set into the ground. It's so funny because like there's nothing really to tell you that that's there. So there's general
Oh,
passersby all the
sorry.
time walking past that, completely unaware of like what it is. But whereas if you know what you're looking for, I'd love to see somebody just stumble upon it though, and just like unbeknowingly just be stood where Cassian Andor was at some point.
That's so cool. If you hear my dog in the back, I don't know what she's barking at, but it's something. Goose. She's trying to protect the family here.
Big
Um,
Andor fan.
I know. She's excited for Andor, but I just had to share that too. And I would encourage people to take a look at the pictures on your Instagram of that.
Mm.
I really enjoyed those. Um, well, just to close up, I was going to ask you, just our last question here on the list is how excited are you for Celebration next year? I'm excited. I get to see you in real life. Okay.
Ah.
I'm looking forward to it. And I plan on being there. The good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be there. I hope you're there. Um, I'm busting at the seams already. But how about you?
You have to be there, Dave. It's a non-negotiable for me. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
that's right.
It's
That's
it's
right.
it's in the contract. You've got to be there for me. No, I'm
That's right.
incredibly excited. We're having the last couple of celebrations sort of go overseas to London and Japan.
Mm.
Like a lot of our friend group and a lot of the community is based over in the US, and it's so exciting to see all the people who haven't been able to go to the last couple just like chomping at the bit, ready to go to this one. And I just can't wait to see everybody. It can't come soon enough. I'm here just like I can barely contain myself in how excited
Mm.
I am. It's just going to be nice to be together, and yes, there's going to be all of the trappings of celebration, got the 50th and everything going on, but just getting to hang out and like sort of spend time together. There's just there's nothing better. I just yeah, I really can't wait. And it's surprising how quick it's sort of approaching, and I'm sort of starting to think I need to get moving on some of my plans. And but I don't begrudge that. It's going to be so exciting.
Oh, I had to ask you about it. I'm super excited. I know. We're going to have a lot of friends there, and we're going to be hanging out and just enjoying Star Wars like nobody's business. All right. Well, hey, I know we don't have Aaron here, but I talked to Daz about this, and in fact, I had um, a Star Wars dad joke of the week. I know Aaron's going to be like, "What?" And so I was looking at two of them, and so. I was going to do one, but when Daz had mentioned some of his favorite kind of scenes are of Ray, I'm going to have to do two. So let me do the first one, and then I'm going to do a second one. They're both Ray centric, and they have to be Ray centric because Daz is on the podcast. So you know how Aaron
Like
will try to get it kind of
yeah,
match up with the subject.
I
Both of these have to be Ray.
I feel
Um,
like you're subtly finding a way to blame me for what's just about to happen.
It's not me. This is Aaron and Daz, not me. Yeah. Um, all right. So here's the first one. All right. You ready, Daz? You
I'm
ready?
right.
Okay.
I'm so
This.
ready, so ready.
Okay. All right. What does Ray put on her doorstep during Halloween?
Oh, well, as a number one fan, I should know, but I don't. Could tell me.
He puts Jakku lanterns. Oh, on her doorstep. Jakku lanterns.
I need
I
to write
know.
these down, don't I? Like I'm gonna have to use these again.
Listen, I know. Well, I think Aaron's proud right now. I think he's very proud. All right. Now, again, this is the one that I was thinking about doing, but I definitely have to do it now because you'd mentioned Rey and her beginnings in The Force Awakens. So here's the question. Here's the
Okay.
second Star Wars dad joke of the week. Did you know Rey didn't have any training in scavenging? Did you know that?
No, I had
No.
no idea.
Yeah, she just picked it up as she went along.
Oh my goodness me.
So bad. So
Well
bad.
done. Well done, Dave. You've done Aaron proud. Very good.
Oh, there we go. And I thought you'd enjoy that one with Ray. So,
Oh, you've
all
done
right.
well. You've done well. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Well, we both did pretty well. Not as good as Aaron, but we
Oh.
tried our best. So, well, let's do this. I know towards the end here, I'm used to Aaron doing this, but usually I just try to go through. He tries to go through, just kind of letting everybody know where everybody can be, get a hold of, on the socials and things like that. I think I've already kind of really talked up your Instagram. I would highly recommend people go there and look at all the cool pictures, even from Japan. Last year. Oh my gosh! But let me just ask you anyways, and I just didn't know if there's any other places where people could get a hold of you or see the cool Star Wars stuff that you've done over the years.
Well, I had something of an Order 66 on my social accounts, and I got rid of them all, apart from Instagram, because that's the one I enjoyed the most. So, if anybody'd like to get in touch or, see some of the things we've been talking about today, pictures of some of these meetings that I've had with people at conventions, my sort of day trip to Niamos, you can find me on Instagram at Daz Davies 1. Yeah, check it out. Say hi if you'd like, everybody. Yeah, always glad to chat. And I just, I need to make sure, Dave, I've realized I've become a serial non-thank you person on podcasts. And I just want to thank you for having me on the show today. I'm getting it in there now because I've had massive regret the last couple of times I've been on podcasts.
Oh
I
my
don't know,
goodness.
when did I become really rude? And I'm going to sort of defend myself here. I usually say it after I get off the podcast,
Right.
but I've realized the listeners don't realize that. So thank you very much, Dave, for having me on. I've
Oh
really
my
enjoyed this. It's been
gosh.
fantastic.
Well, thank you for being on. I just every time you're on, it is just a joy. It's a joy. And and I would say this, I would encourage people to take a look, at Daz's Instagram posts. I love them. You've heard me sprinkle them in throughout this whole podcast episode. It's so fun to see, Daz's adventures over there. It's so cool. And so I'll say this, Daz mentioned where to find him. Instagram for me as well. I'm not as active as I probably should be, and I think I'm just having more fun looking at everyone's cool Star Wars stuff on their Instagram posts. But I'm just at David Motters. The other place to find me, and I always try to say this without a Carabas moment, is the show socials. And Aaron is not here, but let me reel him off. He does it like ain't nobody's business. But we're at SW Reactions Pod on Facebook and X, Twitter X. We're at SW Reactions on Instagram, Threads, Pinterest, TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube. If you want to email us, we're at swreactions@gmail.com. And if we want to leave, we haven't done a lot of the voicemail stuff, but if someone wants to leave it, it's speakpipe.com/Star Wars Reactions. So there we go. Hopefully, Aaron will hopefully he won't be upset that we did a good job, right, Daz? I think we did. I think we did a
I,
good job.
I think you've done him proud, especially with those dad jokes.
I'm quite proud, actually.
Oh my gosh, listen to who's jumping on.
Here he is.
Well, Aaron, do you wanna I was gonna do it. I was gonna do our famous log off, but are you gonna do it?
I can if you want me to.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. David, thank you for taking the reins tonight. I greatly appreciate it. Daz, my friend, you're going to get us both on one show one day. I promise. It's going to
Yes.
happen. It will.
It was beginning to turn into Superman and Clark Kent, and I was beginning to question things a little bit.
that's funny. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you
Nice.
everybody for listening in. We appreciate each and every one of you. We love you. We're praying for you, wishing you all the best. And of course, we want to continue to encourage you to continue acts of kindness, do something good for somebody, and brighten their day, brighten yours, and just make the world better. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
I got in just in time, didn't I?